Action Nomination Kickoff event. I'm Ryan Good and the President and CEO of Foundations Health and Wholeness. We are so glad you could join us today. We'll be recording this event for people who couldn't sit in during this time. As a mental health nonprofit organization, we have an annual event that honors people who create healthy workplaces, schools, and neighborhoods. It adds value to our Brown County community through the sharing of these inspirational stories. This is our 14th year. Every spring, we open nominations for individuals to be honored at the fall event. We'll be opening nominations today after the special presentation, so stay tuned with us until the end. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kelly Nutty, who's Foundation's Director of Development.
Thank you, Ryan. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you could join us today. And hello, Mike. It's been a challenging 12 plus months. We entered the COVID pandemic together, where we were forced to leave our offices, schools, our places of play and spirituality. This side of the pandemic may be more challenging for some of us as we try to find our various exits alone. To give back and support our individual and community emotional wellness, we are delighted to be hosting leading mental health speaker and author Mike Vini. This opportunity is made possible by the generous contribution of the George Crest Foundation in Green Bay. Mike is a best-selling author. His book is Transforming Stigma: How to Become a Mental Wellness Superhero, and the Transforming Stigma workbook. Both of those have become valuable mental health resources for people of all ages. Mike has been featured on ABC, NBC, and CBS News for his advocacy work. And in 2017, he was recognized as one of the 100 most influential people in the healthcare industry, and recently named one of the best motivational speakers on mental health. We are delighted that he's joining us today, and it happens to be Mike's birthday, so please give him an enthusiastic virtual welcome to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelly, Ryan, and just everyone for being here. Yes, it's my birthday today, and I'm excited that I get to do a presentation for all of you. And you know what? When we think of birthdays, we think about celebrating, and this is how I'm celebrating. So you are my birthday plans for today. And I'm excited because we're talking about ethics and action. And I don't know about you, but every time I pick up my phone, there's just something negative out there that's coming in from the news or social media. So the idea of recognizing ethics in action is awesome because it's just positive, and I wish the world would do more of that. And that being said, I am zoomed out, and I'm assuming that you are too. In case you don't know what that means, each day I wake up and I look at my calendar and I see how many Zoom appointments I have or WebEx or whatever, and I try to muscle up the energy or willpower just to get through it. And because I know that you are zoomed out, I promise you that I'm going to give you my best during this presentation. I'm going to give you something really worthy of your time. And we are going to be talking about mental health, which has been such a popular topic during the past year. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story. And I'm going to also give you some practical tips that you can use. You know, there are tips everywhere for mental health. If you go on Instagram, you can find them every single day. But I personally like ones that are practical for busy people who have real lives and can't just lounge on the beach or whatever. You know, self-care is really important, but it's important to understand how to implement it in your life. Now, my history starts with mental health challenges. I would love to tell you that I'm a doctor or something like that. I'm not. I'm just Mike. I have a lot of struggles. That's my background. And my mental health challenges started when I was a kid. You know, oftentimes when people talk about mental health, they're talking about three things, actually. They're talking about thoughts, feelings, and behavior. You can't see someone's thoughts. We like to think we can perceive each other's feelings, but you can absolutely observe someone's behavior. And behavior is where it began for me. I was a kid and I would get into a lot of trouble for my behavior. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in first grade. I would get yelled at by my parents because I was bad. I would punch my little brother, scream and yell I don't know, different things. I was bad. I was constantly in trouble. So for many years of my young life, I thought I was just a bad kid. And so my parents really tried to help me learn to behave. They started taking me to this person that wore a suit, and I would have to sit in his office and talk with him. I would later learn that's called a therapist. And I don't know if it really did anything for me. But in second grade, mommy and daddy created a plan to help me. They decided to put me in this place called Catholic school. They figured that the nuns would straighten me out. You know, this is not going to go good, right? But needless to say, they had very good intentions, and I appreciate that. So second grade was good. Third grade was good. But in fourth grade, you have had this experience in school, as I have, where you have that one teacher in school that no one wants to get as a teacher. They have a reputation for being evil and alien or something else, and just like nobody wants that teacher. Well, in my school, her name was Sister Pat, and she was known as the mean and evil nun. And I knew that when I got her as my teacher, we were not going to survive the school year. I just knew that. And so I was sitting in fourth grade in the back of the class, kind of like I am now. Just picture me in fourth grade, sitting in the back of class. I didn't have a beard at the time. And there I was, and I had a smile on my face. And she told me to wipe the smile off my face. And I said the thing you should not say to your teacher. I said, no. Now, you know how that goes down in class. Everybody goes, ooh. And so Sister Pat then approached me and started yelling at me. And I said some things back to her that I'm not going to repeat right now. She then tried to grab me by my arm and pull me out of my desk. And I did something I deeply regret. I tried to punch my teacher as hard as I could. She then took holy water and threw it on me and called me the devil. I took the holy water off me and threw it back at her and said, put this on your wrinkles. Needless to say, I was expelled from school that day. And mommy and daddy had a serious talk with me that night about respect. They said, Mike, you cannot just, do that to an adult. And I told them that nobody has a right to talk down to me. I'm 42 years old today, and no one has a right to talk down to me, but I don't punch people anymore. But back to fourth grade. So I'm expelled from school, and my parents are getting worried here. My younger brother, Jason, is doing just fine. Everyone loves Jason. Jason has friends. He gets good grades. But me, they just didn't know what to do. So they put me in a public school where my uncle was the principal. They thought it'd be good for his career if he straightened me out, and good for me. Well, long story short, after 3 weeks, several fights, and a desk mysteriously flying out of my hands in the direction of my teacher, I was expelled from that school. 2 expulsions in fourth grade here. The rest of fourth grade, though, was the best school year ever. I got to stay home all day. That's back in a time when staying at home from school was cool. We don't want to do that anymore. We're done with that now. But back then it was cool. I stayed home from school, and I had this tutor come to the house for 1 hour a day to work with me. And she was so scared of me, she didn't make eye contact with me. And that was fourth grade. The summer between fourth and fifth grade, mommy and daddy took me to the movies to see Batman. And I just want to qualify this because I take my superheroes very seriously. This was not Christian Bale starring as Batman or Ben Affleck. It was Michael Keaton starring as Batman. And just so you know, he's actually going to be Batman again in the Flash movie. Just found that out recently. And I love the movie. And Jack Nicholson was the Joker. Interestingly, Jack Nicholson, I don't know if you know this, starred in a movie called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a major mental health movie, and he and I have the exact same birthday. But that's a whole nother conversation. But needless to say, they took me to see the Batman movie. I loved it. And they promised me that if I behaved, I could be Batman or the Joker for Halloween. And shortly after that movie, I don't know if it was the movie or something else, I came home and I went into a rage. I went into a very angry rage. I started punching things and destroying things in my parents' home, and I was angry and I couldn't stop. They tried to calm me down. It didn't help. And the next thing I know, I'm put in a mental hospital. And I just want to say this. They gave me the whole talk about, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Everyone has mental health challenges. I knew where I was, and I knew that this was not normal. That's how I felt. And it didn't help that when I looked out my window at night in the mental hospital, right across the street was the county jail. And I knew that the people in the jail had the exact same rights as me, but I was supposed to be okay with it. I quickly learned the secret to getting out of the mental hospital. There is a secret. I should not be telling you this, but there's a secret to getting out of the mental hospital. The secret is you have to convince them that you have coping skills. And that's what I did. I convinced them I had coping skills, and they let me out. That's the secret to getting out. Never want to go back there. In 5th grade, I was put in special education. And this teacher I had was probably the one teacher that I never messed with. In fact, I saw this woman recently, just a few years ago, and she's about 5 feet tall, and she still scares me. I keep my distance for some reason. I don't know why. She scared me. But needless to say, I found a way to annoy her. I would tap on my desk and make drum beats. And I loved tapping on my desk to make drum beats. Eventually, they let me go into the drum class. Holding drumsticks for the very first time was perhaps the greatest feeling I ever felt in my life. I'll never forget that feeling. But when I was not in the drum class, which was most of the time, I was experiencing what I would later learn is a thing called depression. I was constantly sad, and I wasn't crying all the time, but I felt a sadness so deep that my body was in physical pain. When I experienced depression, my body has physical pain. And a lot of times when someone is struggling with a mental health challenge, they just want one thing, a solution. That's all. We just want a solution to take away the anxiety, stress, anger, whatever it is. So I wanted a solution. I just wanted the pain to go away. And, you hear different things from kids on the playground about ways to deal with things. And I decided to deal with my pain. At 10 years old, 5th grade, I came home from school one day and I went into the medicine cabinet and I found all my mental health medication. And I swallowed the entire bottle of pills and tried to end my life. My mom found me and rushed me to the hospital. Had she not done that, I would have died by suicide at age 10. I am beyond grateful that she saved my life. And at the time, I was also angry because I just wanted the pain to go away. And I didn't understand why she was getting in the way of it. After that, things got a little better, then they got worse. In 7th grade, I'm a lot bigger and a lot stronger. And I'm going into rages more again at home. And I got to be honest with you, when you're in 7th grade and you go into a rage, that's not a rage anymore. That's called violence. And I hate to admit it to you because it's embarrassing. I feel ashamed, but I want to be honest with you and tell you what happened. I also started doing a thing called self-harm. And self-harm is a thing that's a problem for adults and youth. And self-harm can be anything that you do that's self-destructive. It's not one thing. In fact, driving destructively is a form of self-harm, if you think about it. And I would self-harm and hurt myself. And there are 3 reasons why people do it. And I just want to share 3 reasons. One, we self-harm to take away the pain. That's what I did. I thought it would take away the pain. Truthfully, it doesn't really work. You think it works, but it doesn't. The second reason people self-harm is it can actually become an addiction. Prior to the pandemic, and I'm going to speak this into existence post-pandemic, I would travel around the country 3 weeks out of the month, and I would always end up in a Walmart or a CVS drugstore looking for a razor to shave this head right here. And I didn't get those cheap ones. I got the expensive ones that vibrate. And sometimes I would linger a little bit too long in the razor section, thinking I need to take a little something extra home. So I had to quickly get myself out of the store because self-harm became an addiction for me. The third reason people self-harm is that they think it's cool. Either way, if you are self-harming, I encourage you to talk to a professional about it. And as you will see in a few moments, I'm going to give you some other tools that I really wish I would have had when I was a kid. So in 7th grade, I'm self-harming, violent at home. I'm put into the mental hospital again, this time for 6 months. They were not buying my coping skills story this time. And eventually they let me get weekend passes for good behavior. And when I went home on the weekends, my parents, they wanted to do like family activities, like go out to eat and stuff like that. I didn't want to do any of that. So what I would do is come home from the mental hospital in 7th grade, lock myself in my bedroom, and play drums to LL Cool J and Red Hot Chili Peppers. That was 7th grade. Between 7th and 10th grade, I was on a first name basis with the local police and the local emergency room. I was constantly in crisis. I mean, I knew their first names. I knew their favorite sports teams. We were constantly talking to each other. And by the time I finished 10th grade, I had been expelled from 3 schools, hospitalized in a mental hospital 3 times, several suicide attempts, lots of self-harm, violent at home, and on so much medication. All the while, my younger brother, Jason, is doing just fine. And let me say this about my parents. I come from a very good home. My parents gave us so much. There's nothing I can say that was really done to make me like this or whatever. It just, I still don't fully know why this happened, but the summer between 10th and 11th grade changed my life. And that's where I want you to really listen closely to what happened that summer. That summer, I thought I had it good because no school wanted me. So I could achieve my dream of quitting school. That's what I was hoping for. But my mom had different plans. You see, I want to say something about moms because I know we have some moms on here, and moms are the hardest working people in the world. In fact, in my company, on my team, I have mostly moms, and they are just super hard, dedicated workers. I love moms. And as a group, moms are the sneakiest people on the planet. Let's just get real right now. And even when you're an adult, they do these things called mommy tricks, where they look at you and they're saying one thing, but you know they're plotting something else. And they gather with each other and talk and do things behind your back. And so my mom approached me that summer with the mommy look. I knew she was up to something. She said, Michael, I want to talk to you. And I took a step away. I said, what do you want to talk about? She said, I have a question. I knew this was a mommy trick. What's your question? She asked me, what would make you happy? That kind of threw me. No one had ever asked me that before, but I knew it was a mommy trick. So I thought about it still, and I thought about it and I answered. I said, you know what? The only thing that makes me happy is playing the drums. I just want to play the drums all day. My dad was in the vicinity and said, absolutely not in my house. But my moms are sneaky, looked at me with the mommy look and said, thank you so much for telling me, and just walked away like that, leaving me hanging. I'm the most impatient person on the planet. You can't do that to me. And for the next several days, my mom was in her room with the door locked, making phone calls, plotting something. I didn't know what it was. So finally I confronted her. I said, what's going on? And she told me that she actually found a performing arts high school that would willingly accept me despite my record, and I could play drums for most of the day. You know, as I tell you that, so many emotions come up for me. Like I feel sad, I feel joy, because it's the first time I really had hope, knowing that I get to play the drums. It's the only thing that really made me happy. And I'll never forget going into 11th grade in a performing arts high school. I was the same height that I am now. I'm 5'9". I was like 50 pounds lighter, but I had hair. I had some serious hair. I miss that hair. I think about that hair every day. I was cool back in the day. I had sideburns and a goatee, and there I was amongst my fellow musicians. And oddly, my grades started to go up. With the help of my psychiatrist, medication went down. Self-harming basically stopped. I wasn't acting out anymore at home. And I started to have friends for the first time in my life. Until one day, this teacher yelled at me and spoke down to me. Teacher yelled at me and spoke down to me. I felt my fists clenched like this, and I knew that it was done. But the cool thing about a performing arts high school is you have different rooms where you can go practice your instrument. So I stormed out of class, went into a room to go play drums by myself. Now, pause the presentation for a moment. Side note here. If I were doing this live, I would actually play drums for you, but I'm not doing it live. So you're going to have to imagine me playing drums, or check it out on YouTube at some point. But there I was, just playing drums in the room by myself. And the teacher comes in the room and says, Mike, you need to be in class. I said, I know, I'm doing my thing. And he said, 15 minutes. So I played for 15 more minutes. And for the first time in my life, I calmed down. It was weird. No getting suspended, no expulsion, no police, no emergency room. It was weird. Several months after that, I decided I wanted me a girlfriend. And this one girl that I liked, just, I don't know, she just wasn't having it. And I didn't know what to do with my feelings. And I just stormed out of class and went to the room to just go play drums by myself, just to let out my emotions. And the teacher comes in and says, Mike, you should be in class. I said, I know, I'm doing my thing. And then he asked me a question that changed my life forever. He said, Mike, can I hire you to play drums in my band? At that moment, the light bulb went off in my head. When I acted out the other way, I got suspended, expelled, or went to the mental hospital. But when I acted out on the drums, people wanted to give me money. And so I approached my parents as a high school senior, what the conversation no parents of a high school senior want to have when their other child is talking about law school. And I said, Mommy and Daddy, I want to be a drummer. And their heads just went down like this. I would love to tell you that they supported it. I think they were just kind of like, okay, because I was okay and just like going on with it. But what was interesting was my freshman year of college, Usually after the first semester, all the freshmen go out and party, celebrate, whatever. I couldn't go out with my friends, because starting at age 18, after I was done with freshman year, I was being flown around the country, being paid thousands of dollars to play drums. The career actually worked. And prior to the pandemic, I was still doing drumming. I actually do corporate drumming now in corporate America, where I bring my drums into the workplace and get to work with adults, kind of like kindergarten. Everybody sits in a circle and people play with me, get real sweaty and laugh, and they pay me. Like literally, that was my job. And so I'm looking forward to doing that again post-pandemic. And I want to say this, one of the places that I used to visit so much in this country was Wisconsin. So I actually really miss being there, and I hope to see you all in person at some time. Now, let me say this, even though things got better, I still struggle with mental health challenges. I battle major depressive disorder. I battle anxiety. I have severe anxiety. In fact, I have severe stage fright. Like doing this presentation, I'm feeling the anxiety in my chest. I don't know how I come off to you, but for me, I'm struggling here. And I have obsessive compulsive disorder, and you put all that together and it's rough. And at the same time, I have to show up in the world and do work, be at a presentation on time, do things. And I had to deal with a pandemic. And what I wanted to share with you is there are certain tools that I learned that you can take from not just a person who talks about mental health, but someone who battles this stuff every day and has to battle life, and things that I've used that actually helped me get through this pandemic much better than I thought I would. And thank you for all your support. I appreciate that, Diane. And I wanted to share 3 things with you very quickly here, because we have a lot of things to cover today. And I just want to say this is usually a 90-minute presentation that I've gotten down to like 20 minutes. So the pandemic has taught me lots of new skills. But the thing I wanted to bring up, there are 3 areas of mental health that everyone has been affected by. And one of them is stress. Stress is your body's response to all that's happening in your life, in the world that you see, that you hear, that you experience. And when we don't deal with stress, we get to a point where we're tired all the time. That's called exhaustion. And when you're tired to the point that you cannot function, that's called burnout. I don't want you to get to burnout. I don't want you to get to exhaustion. And if you are there, I really encourage you to get some help. But I want to help you with dealing with stress and give you a few tools that work. One of the tools that has really helped a lot of people, it's my favorite tool in the whole world. You actually take this device right here, a little pen and a pad of paper, and you write down everything that's on your mind. That's it. It's called a brain dump. You dump out everything on your mind. And this is recommended by therapists, professional coaches, and professional organizers. And think about it. You and I right now have something in common. Even though you're with me in this presentation, there's something on your mind that you're thinking about that has to happen later or that you need to do. Maybe you might have 2 screens open and you're doing 2 things at once. Again, no shame if you are, it's totally fine. If I were doing it, I'd be doing the same thing, texting my friend too, and on Facebook. But the thing is this, we have lots of open loops on our mind. And when we don't manage those open loops, we get stressed. So when you write down everything that's on your mind, it doesn't take away all those things, but it makes them more manageable. So I've gotten into the habit of each morning when I wake up, writing down everything that's on my mind. Every single room in the house has a yellow legal pad and a pen next to it, so anyone can do a brain dump whenever they need to. Really, really important to do for your stress. And this is a habit that parents can teach kids. So if you have kids at home who are feeling some stress, this is a great tool and very easy for everyone to do. The other thing that I want to bring up about stress is there is a little device that has been wreaking havoc on the entire world during the past years, this mobile device right here. Phone. And probably after this presentation, I'm going to go check my phone to see if any of you found me on LinkedIn and messaged me. So I invite you to do that actually right now if you want to. But here's the deal. People often tell me that they're stressed out due to social media and news. I want to be honest with you, and I want to be direct because I care about you here and I care about your stress. No one forces you to pick up your phone. No one forces you to go on social media. No one forces you to watch the news. In fact, on social media sites, there's a unfriend and unfollow button if there are things that stress you out. But if you don't gain control around that and you just default to picking up this device, that can cause stress. So I challenge you to start being disciplined about using your mobile device. And I guarantee you'll start to experience less stress. So those are two things that you can deal with stress. Anxiety. Anxiety, there's so many different things that I can share with you, but one of the tools that really, really helps me is the Bloomin Onion. Let me explain. There's a restaurant in this country called the Outback Steakhouse. I'm about to make myself hungry. I should not be talking about this right now. And I got to be on something after this and I can't eat. Oh, geez. Okay. So the Outback Steakhouse, there's a dish called the Bloomin Onion. If you've never seen it, Google it. What they do is they take an onion, they pierce it down the middle, they deep fry it. And when it comes out, everyone stares at it in the restaurant and it gets to your table and disappears in like 1 minute. Now, here's the thing. The Bloomin' Onion basically is a deep fried onion and you just see all the layers. But you and I both know an onion has layers. Let me say that again. When you have the Bloomin' Onion come out, you get to see the layers, but you and I both know an onion has layers. That's what happens when you go to therapy or counseling. Going to therapy or counseling doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It's actually about growth. You see, there's what you know about yourself, what you don't know about yourself, and what you didn't know that you didn't even realize that you didn't even know about yourself. And that's why it's important to go to therapy. And I encourage all of you to go to therapy. If you're not, I guarantee it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself. If you have a family member who is struggling, one of the best things that you can do for them is go to therapy for yourself. So I encourage you to embrace that and look at it as a growth opportunity for yourself. So that's a way that you can work with anxiety. The other one is loneliness. And there's so many different things that I can share about this. And in the name of time, I'm going to give you just a few brief ones that you can take with you. When it comes to loneliness, I want to share a tool that I stumbled upon by mistake in the beginning of the pandemic. The beginning of the pandemic, I was in my apartment in New York City in the basement by myself, recording videos for a course that's actually on my website right now called Ignite, a self-care course. And the weirdest thing would happen. So I'd go to record videos like, hey, this is Mike Vini, blah, 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 shut off the camera. And the weirdest thing would happen. I would feel like I had some kind of deep connection with someone. I'm like, this is weird. It's just me and the camera. Every time I would record, I felt like I had a deep connection. I talked to my therapist about it. Maybe it's something going on with me. But I realized what it was after we did some exploring. When I look in the camera, I wasn't looking into the camera. I was picturing looking at you and looking into your eyes and seeing your humanity. That's what was happening. And whenever you have the opportunity, can you all mute, by the way? I'm hearing some background noise. But whenever you have the opportunity, if you're on Zoom or FaceTime and you're in a one-on-one conversation, one of the best ways you can connect with someone is by taking just a few seconds to not look at their picture, which is usually below the camera, but looking into the camera and picturing looking into their eyes and seeing their humanity. And I want to challenge you as we navigate into more in-person stuff. When you interact with another human being, a conversation, I challenge you to take a moment to look into their eyes and see their humanity. Out of all of the different mental health tools that I have been given, this is one of the top 2, and I guarantee it will change your life if you start doing it. It's one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself. And what it does is it gives us a bridge to connect with each other more. Another thing I want to bring up very briefly here, people often ask me, how do I know if someone in my life is struggling with mental health challenges? I want to give you 3 little things to think about. You can remember these forever. They're called the 3 outs. OUTS. I stumbled upon these by mistake. You know, if you look online for like the signs and symptoms of someone struggling, this is this long list. And I don't know about you, but I can't remember all that stuff when I'm talking to my friend. So for my own self, I got it down to 3 things. I call them the 3 outs. If someone is behaving out of character, over time, you see a pattern where they're behaving out of character. Maybe they're not showing up for work like they used to. Maybe they're not delivering on assignments. Maybe their hygiene is not what it used to be. There's a chance that they're struggling with a mental health challenge. The second out is out of nowhere. Maybe they just burst into tears, have a temper tantrum, decide to move across the country just spontaneously. That's another sign that something might be going on. And the third out is out of the group, meaning they're isolating, they're getting away from family, getting away from your friends, they're not in touch like they used to be. There's a chance that something is going on. So I encourage you to be aware of those three outs with people in your life so you can check in on them to see if they are struggling. In the name of time, I'm going to have to wrap up in a bit, but I just wanted to say a few things. Name of my book is called Transforming Stigma, How to Become a Mental Wellness Superhero. And we are going to be actually raffling off some copies of this book for you that I'm going to autograph and send. So I encourage you to check it out. A lot of people have found the book very helpful, and there's a lot in there, and it's a very, very easy read, I promise you, because I didn't want to give you too much to digest there. And also, I encourage you to find me on social media, on LinkedIn, especially. Send me a message. Actually, I'd love to hear from you, and let me know what you got out of this presentation today. That always makes me feel good. Kelly said, I love the book cover, especially after hearing your Batman story. Yes, I am all about my superheroes. And the other thing I wanted to say is I do professional speaking at events in companies all across the country. And if you're interested in having me speak virtually or in person, I'm vaccinated and doing that again, please feel free to contact me and let me know. But before we close, I just want to bring up one final thing. And if you take nothing else from this presentation, listen to this. There are three emotions that have wreaked havoc on the world this year, or the past year and a half at this point. They are anger, grief, and fear. We don't like to talk about those emotions. They're considered negative emotions by many people. And maybe you felt one of those emotions here and there. Maybe you felt all three at once. But I want to share something that I wish I would have known as a child about anger, grief, and fear. You see, when we think of anger, we think of hostility and violence. When we think of fear, we think of, anxiety. When we think of grief, well, when it comes to grief, I know that many of you have lost people this year and a half or past year and a half. And I just want to say that my heart goes out to you, and I know there's nothing that I can say that can take away that grief. But I want to share with you three things that I wish I would have learned about anger, grief, and fear. I wish I would have learned that anger, grief, and fear are three of the absolute best emotions you could ever have, and you need them for success in life. And I'm going to explain to you how right now. Let's start with fear. We don't like fear. When you don't deal with it, it becomes anxiety. If you got anxiety, it's going to make it worse. But here's the thing. When you process your fear, sit with it and feel your feelings and don't run away and talk with a therapist about it. Fear becomes vision and courage. We need your fear. Grief, we often feel in the belly. Grief can weigh us down. When you process your grief with a therapist, grief eventually becomes joy. And anger, the worst one of all. When you learn to process anger in a healthy way and feel it fully, don't run away from it. Anger becomes passion, decisiveness, and leadership. We need your anger. So I challenge you to think about that as you navigate our transition into this new normal that we're in. I want to just say thank you to all of you for being here with me on my birthday. This is like the perfect way to spend my birthday. And I just feel so much gratitude for the fact that you're taking your time to hang out with me here on Zoom. And I hope we keep in touch. And in closing, I want you to think of someone who has made a difference in your community. Think of someone, actually, you can just close your eyes right now and just think of someone that, locally who's made a difference. Maybe they've done it through overcoming a challenge. Maybe it's been done through helping someone else. Maybe it's just their actions or their character. I want you to think about that person. And I want to let you know that there's an opportunity right now to celebrate them, an opportunity to celebrate them loudly. And I'm going to turn it back to Kelly and Ryan to tell you how you can nominate this person for a 2021 Ethics in Action Award. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Mike. Much appreciated. And, I think you are, first of all, welcome to come to Green Bay and drum with us anytime. So would love to have you here for that activity. Yeah, and I think it's really powerful just in terms of the awareness of something like drumming that can be so annoying on a classroom desk, yet people in your life saw that within you and turned it into something that was transformational. And I just wonder, what are some of those practical things around me in others that can certainly draw that out. So thank you for that inspiration. Thank you for sharing your humanity with us, and really appreciate you modeling vulnerability in your journey to cope. And so much appreciated, Mike. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Before you get up and stretch for your next meeting, we are excited that this year's nomination period for the Ethics and Actions Awards opens right now. The link to nominate is in the chat. Foundations Health and Wholeness is delighted to announce the 2021 nomination period for the Ethics and Action Award for people who create healthy workplaces, schools, and neighborhoods in our community. The Ethics and Action Awards focus on people. They seek out stories of impact and lifts up the details of personal stories that inspire ethical change. Nominators are storytellers and focus on what's happened in the community that was wrong, or what wasn't happening that should have been. What did the nominee do to make the situation better by drawing on their core values of ethical leadership, courage, innovation, insight, honor, and morals? What does this situation look like now? Is the work by the nominee ongoing? Has the nominee's work inspired more change in this area? And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kelly Nutty to take us home today.
Thank you, Ryan and Mike. So grateful for this time together. And I know each one of you know someone who is creating a healthy workplace, school, or neighborhood. And I also know that you know people who know people. There are so many people who are rising to the challenge, standing up for others, and standing out in their own actions and modeling what Mike is modeling in his vulnerable path. Please lift up their stories and nominate them. You can visit our website, wearefoundations.org, and click on the Ethics in Action tab to learn more about the awards, to read our frequently asked questions for all the details, and nominate someone for an award. Nominations for this year open through Friday, June 4th. And we have all nominations are actually reviewed by an independent community selection team who research, collaborate, and make all award decisions. Please take some time to nominate someone you know. We want to share their inspiring stories. Stories are how we create empathy and community among each other. And please mark your calendars for Thursday, October 21st, which will be our Ethics in Action Honor Celebration, where we announce this year's award recipient and do some, have some time for fellowship. So thank you so much for your time. However, as a bonus, Mike has generously donated 5 copies of his book, Transforming Stigma, How to Become a Mental Wellness Superhero. So I'm drawing 5 random names out of this cup here, and we'll be getting you signed copies of that book. First book winner is Brian Hiska. The next one is Sarah Clapper, Carmen Lax, Donna Pasternak. I'm going to make sure I have the right number here so I'm not overselling here. And one more, Holly Belmond. So thank you so much to everyone who attended. We will make sure we get these books to you. Certainly, if you're interested in Mike's book, go to his website, mikevini.com. A link is there, and you can also purchase a book. Please nominate someone. Please share in your networks. We will be, throughout the next 6 weeks, promoting this opportunity to the Green Bay community at large, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to nominate someone for an Ethic in Action Award. Thank you so much. We hope everyone has an inspiring rest of the day. Thank you.